A hand that once trembled now lies still, but the shadow it learned to carry keeps moving through every room. Some people do not harden when they break. They become precise. If you've suffered enough times, the world stops lying to you. What remains is a different kind of sight. There is a story the psyche tells in whispers. In Jungian psychology, it begins when the persona cracks and the shadow steps forward, not to destroy you, but to guide you toward what you refuse to see. We think we're afraid of pain, but people who have suffered too much carry a different fear, that they will betray themselves by pretending it didn't happen. So they stop pretending. They practice a quiet, ruthless honesty, a way of seeing that doesn't flinch. This is not cynicism, it is clarity. Carl Jung once wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." The ones who have suffered are already fluent in this language of darkness. They understand shadow work not as a trend, but as a necessity. Their nightmares taught them grammar. Their scars taught them syntax. You notice it in small things first. Their voice is softer, but their questions are sharper. They don't rush to fill silence, because silence has never been empty for them. A long night trained them to listen to intuition, to dreams, to the ache beneath a smile. This is the first hidden trait, X-ray attention. They read micro-expressions like maps. They track the archetypes. In a conversation, the hero trying to look brave, the orphan pretending not to care, the trickster bending truth to survive. They don't judge, they simply see. And once you are seen by someone who has suffered, you feel it, the gentle pressure of reality returning. The second hidden trait is fierce tenderness. Soft reverb, paradoxical? Yes. But archetypes are paradoxes that learn to stand up. After enough loss, tenderness stops being naive. It becomes disciplined. They can hold your grief without drowning in it. They can say, "I believe you," and also, "But that story is not the whole of you. This is love, as boundary, not as rescue." This is compassion that refuses to become addiction. The third trait is born from a strange alchemy, ritual realism. People who have suffered learn that spirit and schedule must shake hands. It's not enough to pray. One must also sleep. It's not enough to journal. One must also say no. Inside them lives a monk with a planner, morning light, breath work, a glass of water, a list of 3 essential tasks. They have met chaos. They now worship at the altar of small order. It's not glamorous. It's how they keep the abyss from growing legs. The fourth trait hides inside their silence, myth memory. They don't just remember events, they remember patterns. The way the same archetype keeps changing costumes, abandonment returns as perfectionism, shame returns as sarcasm, fear returns as busyness. But every time the pattern repeats, their recognition grows faster. In Jung's terms, the unconscious becomes less blind. The complex loses power when it is named. They know the naming is painful and worth it. The fifth trait sits in the marrow, becoming. Not achievement, not status, becoming. Their compass points inward, toward individuation, toward the self. Soft reverb. They measure progress by the distance between their reaction and their response, by how quickly they can call their shadow into the room and say, "Sit, speak, teach me." Imagine a corridor with 5 doors, each marked by a wound you thought you outgrew. The first door smells like old rain the day you learned safety could vanish mid-sentence. The second is a locked throat, the apology you gave for surviving. The third is a calendar the years you lost to someone else's storm. The fourth is a mirror, the face you avoided because it remembered. The fifth is a field at night, the future that refused to explain itself. If you've suffered enough, you stop trying to tear the doors off. You learn the ritual: hands steady, breath low, spine soft, feet grounded. You enter, not to punish yourself, but to retrieve yourself. This is shadow work, not obsession with wounds, but reverence for the energy trapped inside them. Here is the inner conflict. Part of you keeps insisting, I should be over this. But another part knows trauma is not a chapter you close. It is a landscape you learn to navigate with better boots. You do not defeat the shadow by denying it. You mature it. You give it a job. You say, guard my boundaries. Remind me when I abandon myself. Keep me honest when I'm tempted by the easy lie. And there is a softer conflict too, the temptation to make pain your personality. It happens quietly. You become loyal to your suffering because it once saved you. But the self, the deep, calm center Jung described, keeps calling you farther than survival. It calls you toward meaning, toward becoming. Here is the uncomfortable realization. Suffering gave you gifts and a leash. The same hypervigilance that kept you alive can make intimacy feel dangerous. The same fierce tenderness that healed others can become a way to avoid your own emptiness. The same ritual realism can become a cage of routines that never let spontaneity breathe. Even myth memory, that brilliant pattern sense, can turn into prophecy. I've seen this before. It always ends badly, and you close the door before anyone knocks. Worse, becoming itself can become an idol. You chase improvement like a rival you must defeat. You call it individuation, but sometimes it is just self-rejection in spiritual clothing. The shadow loves disguises. It will wear a halo if that's what keeps you looking away from the wound that still wants a name. So, ask the question people who have suffered sometimes forget to ask. What would it feel like to not be improving right now? To simply be kind to the current version of me? Not forever. Just for this breath. You may notice a tremor when you try. That tremor is the leash loosening. It's the fear that without pressure you will dissolve. You won't. Pressure was the emergency bridge. Presence is the road. There is a silence that doesn't threaten you anymore. It has the temperature of early morning. In it, you remember the oldest Jungian truth. Opposites are meant to be held, not chosen. The conscious and the unconscious, the persona and the shadow, the wound and the gift. You are not here to be pure. You are here to be whole. So you begin practicing wholeness the way a musician practices scales. When the body alarms, you breathe into the belly and tell the nervous system the news. Today is not that day. When the old story starts narrating, you write a footnote. This might be a shadow projection. When the archetype tries to hijack you, the savior, the victim, the judge, you bow and resume your seat at the center. And slowly, almost invisibly, becoming stops sounding like a race and starts feeling like a homecoming. You water the small good things. A hot mug, a real apology, a list of 3 tasks instead of 30. You don't need the world to notice. You notice. And the psyche, grateful, opens a window you forgot existed. Listen carefully, because this part is quiet. The 5 hidden traits you carry: X-ray attention, fierce tenderness, ritual realism, myth memory, and the marrow of becoming, were not given to make you impressive. They were forged to make you faithful. Faithful to yourself, faithful to life, faithful to the next person who sits beside you on a bench and says, I don't know how to do this anymore. You will know. Not because you are a savior, but because you have sat there too, and you learned how to breathe. If you've suffered too much, You learn that love is not proven by how much you endure, but by how carefully you choose what you endure for. This is individuation in practice, choosing the right sacrifices, letting the wrong gods go. Some will ask how you became so calm. You will smile and think of the nights when calm was an ocean you had to invent, one breath at a time. You'll think of Jung's sentence about the darkness, and how the darkness did not leave it, simply began to serve. You'll think of how your shadow no longer stalks you from the alley. It walks beside you like an old, blunt friend who points at the truth when your eyes blur. And when the old patterns knock, because they will, you will remember your training. Whisper, name it, breathe it, bless it, release it. Suspense, calm, twist, silence. The loop that carried you this far will carry you again. There is a final image I want to leave with you. Not a triumph, not a trophy, just a room with one window, late sunlight on a wooden floor, a glass of water sweating onto a coaster, and you, sitting upright in the kind of peace that doesn't need witnesses. You are not finished. You are becoming. You are not pure light. You are whole. If this message found you at the right moment, subscribe for the next awakening.